crafty friends, it's Sophia Hodgson. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be sharing another June Pride card with you, and this one is a Llama Fiesta birthday card using the Hero Arts Llama stamp and cut set. And here is a photograph of the finished card. So I'm going to be using my stamp and cut llama set. I'm going to be using the large llama, not the baby llama. I'm also going to be using the Sizzix cactus pop-up die and the Elizabeth Craft Designs general pop-up. I show you these cacti, but I'm not actually going to be using them in the end. I didn't have space on the card. I thought I was going to have a lot more space than I did. So these are the Elizabeth Crafts general pop-up dies. And the Tim Holtz paper rosette, and also the MFT cloud stencil die. So in order to make this card, I'm going to be cutting an internal piece of card and an external piece of card, because in order to cut the pop-up bits from the internal piece of card, I'm going to have like little gaps at the back. So I need to cover that up with an outer bit of the card. So I'm using Canson Bristol Smooth. And the inner piece of card is 9 3/4 inches long. And I'm just trying to find the centre here, and I'm not very good with inches and I'm not very good with maths. So in the end, I ended up having to just fold it gently in half so that I could work out where halfway was. But now that I've got that, and I can draw a line along the halfway point of my inner piece of card, I'm just marking a few bits, a few points on the halfway mark, and then I can join them with a line. Because when you cut out the pop-up dies, they have little notches. I'll just show you on the cactus die. So these little notches here, you have to line them up with your midway line, because that's where the card will bend. So just need to line them up and stick them down. And I've done that with the other pop-up dies as well. And now I'm just erasing the pencil line that shows where the central fold is, because I don't need it anymore. And I've also cut a mask for the cactus out of some post-it tape, post-it note. Because obviously when I'm stenciling the sky and when I'm going to be doing the sand later, I don't want to get all of those colours all over my cactus. So I'm going to be using Distress Ink in tumbled glass and the MFT cloud stencil. I love this stencil, it's such a useful stencil. So I just ended up covering the whole of the back of, or the top even, of the inside of the card with these clouds. So this is a kind of inside out card. Everything is happening inside the card so that when it pops up, it reveals itself. So the outside was pretty plain. In fact, I think I left it plain. So yeah, again, this was a video that I filmed back in 2019, a month after I'd broken my hand. This one was filmed after the previous video that I uploaded, so I actually have much more dexterity in my left hand now, but it was still painful at the time, so everything was painfully slow. So all of my video clips have been massively sped up, otherwise we would be here for hours and hours and hours, because everything just took forever with this, kind of healing hand. So I'm just trying to, because the stencil doesn't stretch the whole way across this inside portion of the card, I'm just trying to line up a little bit of cloud with another bit on the stencil, just so that I can get the clouds reaching all the way across. And I'm removing my stencil, but I immediately, try again, I'm removing the mask, but I immediately realised that I need to put it back on, because I'm going to be doing my sand portion now. So I'm going to be using my distress inks, and I'm going to be using gathered twigs, fossilized amber, vintage photo, and a little bit of mustard seed. Again, still massively sped up. So I'm putting down the fossilized amber and a bit of mustard seed just to get a yellow base, but I also wanted to have some kind of brown flecks in there as well, so I end up using the gathered twigs, and yeah, this is where I realised that I needed to replace the mask. The gathered twigs and the vintage photo, and I squished them out on my mat to use them for splatter. So I'll add some ink and some water to my mat and then splatter them using a water brush. And just adding some vintage photo around the edge just to give it a bit more of a frame. But I'm beginning to think that it looks a lot more kind of deserty. And my MFT packaging came to the rescue, because otherwise I would have got brown ink everywhere, all over my beautiful stenciled clouds. It also went all over my my other distress ink pads. So you know, kind of, I'm a seriously messy crafter. If you want to do this in a much more controlled manner, I have now discovered my splat box. So now I'm colouring in my cactus, and I'm going to be using my Arteza real brush markers. I did not make a note of which green markers I used for my cactus, so I'm afraid I can't give you exact names, but I do know that they are the Arteza real brush markers. And I'm just using a bit of backing from my foam roll. So my foam pad has, it's finally come in useful that it's huge. So I'm just able to scribble and create loads of texture in the cactus, so that it looks all kind of succulent and green and lovely in the corner, and it's popping out both literally and figuratively from the background. And now I'm beginning to kind of assemble the pop-up portions of the card. I'm just going to be using my bone folder to really emphasize the creases now. The cactus, because it's a little bit flimsy, is not behaving itself, but I'll get everything lovingly creased in the end. But as you can see now, this is what I was talking about needing an inside and an outside to this card. So I'm just covering this inside piece, which is about 1/2 inch smaller than the outside piece, so it ends up with a little bit of a white border. So I'm just covering that in excess glue, so that I can stick it to the outside of the card, and then we cover up all of those holes that have been created by the dies for the pop-up portions. So here is the outer bit of the card, and you can see now what I mean about the lovely border. So there's just a little white border there. And not only does it make the card a lot more sturdy, but as I said, it totally covers up all of those massive holes that have been created. So now we come to the stamping portion, and I'm, as I've already said before, using my Hero Arts Llama Stamp and Cut stamp and die set. And I'm using Versamark ink because I'm going to be watercolouring, so I don't want that to react with my water-based markers. So I'm stamping 2 llamas facing the same way, and so I'm just using my Tim Holtz stamp platform for this. However, I don't want 3 llamas all facing the same direction, because I think that would be a bit boring, and I don't necessarily know if they'd fit in the card. So for my 3rd llama, I'm going to be doing some reverse stamping, or mirror stamping, and this Fiskars stamping, this silicone mat, is absolutely brilliant for that. I showed it in my previous video that I've been doing some Mama Elephant mirror stamping. And unfortunately I didn't press hard enough on the ears on this particular llama, so that stamped impression was ruined by me, not by the stamping mat. So the stamping mat creates these lovely images, and I just need to press down all over the image, and I have a perfectly reverse stamped llama. So I have now die cut my reverse llama, and the way that I do that is I have a light box for tracing, and I'll lie the die on top of the piece of paper on the back side and put it on top of my light box. If you don't have a light box, I would recommend putting it up against a window, just so that you can see that the stamp outline is within the die, and then attach the die to the back of the card and run that through your die cutting machine. And as you can see with this one, it came out with the perfect white outline all the way around. So I'm using my Arteza Real Brush markers, no surprise, I love these markers, and I'm using my favourite purple combination, which is thistle purple, amethyst purple and violet. When you first apply them to Bristol Smooth, they don't look too amazing, they look a little bit patchy, but I do find that if I just get some normal water, just clean clear water, I tend to find that I don't have enough control when I'm using a water brush with water in it. So I pour a little bit out onto my silicone mat or media mat or whatever it is that I'm working on at the time, and just pick a little bit up with the water brush, and I find that I have more control that way. So then when I'm painting or colouring or whatever you want to call it, I will do kind of a base coat with the Arteza Real Brush markers, then I'll go over it with water. I'll let it just air dry for a little bit, and then I'll go over it with my lightest colour, and that just seems to work. It makes it so much smoother. It looks like a lovely blend once you've used the water, and then just go over it again, just to smooth everything out. So I've done my purple llama and I'm onto my blue llama. The colours that I used for this are Arctic Blue and Bright Blue. And again, I'm just going over it with my water brush pen, just to improve the blend between my shadows and just the main body of the llama. And as you may or may not have noticed, these llamas are unbelievably bright and cheerful and colourful, and I love them. So we've got one purple llama, one blue llama and one pink llama. And the pink llama has been coloured using neon pink, hot pink and currant red Arteza Real Brush markers. So now all of my llamas are coloured in and die cut out. I'm going to adhere them down to their little pop-up pieces. So I used two pop-up pieces that are the same size for the two llamas that are facing in the same direction. But so that they're not all knocking each other over, I used a smaller pop-up for the llama that's facing in the other direction, so it's placed just a little bit further behind those llamas. So now that they're adhered, I just need to work on my sentiment. So I'm using the Tim Holtz Paper Rosette can't speak today. Tim Holtz Paper Rosette Sizzlits die, which is a kind of thin foam die. And I stamped the sentiment from the Hero Arts Stamp and Cut Llama which is No Time for Drama, Llama Let's Party. And I'm just using some double-sided sticky tape to adhere my rosette together. So when you first adhere it, it's in a kind of cone and you have to flatten it out. And I tend to use wet glue so that I can hold it down using an acrylic block just to get it to stick. So you need to leave it under the acrylic block for a little while just to get the glue to grab. I'm just applying some more wet glue to the front portion of the rosette. So you're supposed to have one of the little kind of crinkle cut circles on the front and the back just to hold the rosette in place. Otherwise it wants to just pop up right and turn into a little cone again. So I'm just adhering that on the other side of the card so that it's not competing with the cactus. And because this is going to be a fiesta, I need to have a bright and colourful fiesta die cut word. So I'm just using distress inks again. I've got picked raspberry, wilted violet and peacock feathers. And I'm just creating a blend across this spare piece of Bristol Smooth. And once I'm happy with the blend, I'll die cut the fiesta word die off screen. Now, annoyingly, you will see me stick together all of the tiddles for the eye, and I've got 2 white die cuts and 1 of the coloured die cut, and I adhere all of my tiddles together, and there they are. And you will notice just before I stick this word die cut onto my card, I brush that off the table and onto the floor, and I never find it again. It's really annoying. So I'm just adhering the 2 white die cuts behind the coloured die cut for stability and a little bit of dimension. So I've just adhered one of the coloured die cuts behind, one of the white die cuts behind the coloured die cut. I'm just putting on the second white, and Inara's come along to help. Inara loves a good blending sponge, so she's decided to take the peacock feathers one. And because she distracted me, there we go, the tiddle is still there on the silicone mat. And I'm just getting my fiesta word all lined up. And then I brush off my tiddle. There it goes, onto the floor, never to be found ever again. So I'm just going to adhere the fiesta word die onto the sand in our Peruvian desert. And that finishes off my rainbow fiesta card and another card for celebrating Pride in June. I hope that you liked this card and that you felt inspired. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I hope to see you back at my YouTube channel soon. Take care. Bye.